The gunshot that echoed through the Montana wilderness that September morning in 1882 came from inside Henry Rutherford's old hunting cabin, and he knew immediately that someone had been living in a place he had not visited in 3 long years. Henry dismounted from his gray mare, his hand instinctively moving to the revolver at his hip as he approached the weathered structure nestled against the pine trees. The cabin looked different than he remembered, less abandoned, with smoke rising from the chimney and curtains he did not recognize hanging in the windows. His heart pounded as he moved closer, boots crunching on fallen pine needles. The shot had not been aimed at him, he was certain of that, but it meant whoever was inside had a weapon and knew how to use it. "I know you are out there," a woman's voice called from within. "I saw you coming up the ridge. State your business or move along." Henry stopped in his tracks, surprised by the firm command in her tone. "This is my property," he called back. "My name is Henry Rutherford. I built this cabin 6 years ago." There was a long silence, and then he heard the sound of a bolt being drawn back. The door opened slowly, and a young woman stepped into the doorway, a rifle held loosely at her side. She was slender but strong-looking, with long auburn hair tied back in a practical braid. Her dress was simple but well-maintained, and her green eyes studied him with an intensity that made him feel as though she could see straight through to his soul. "Henry Rutherford," she repeated, and something shifted in her expression. "You are finally here." He frowned, confused by her words. "Do I know you?" She lowered the rifle completely, leaning it against the doorframe. "No, but I know you. My name is Anna Calloway, and I have been waiting for you for 3 years." Henry felt as though the ground had shifted beneath his feet. 3 years? What are you talking about?" "I have never met you before in my life." Anna's eyes filled with something he could not quite name, a mixture of relief and sadness and determination. "Please, come inside. I will make coffee and I will explain everything. You deserve to know why I am here, and why I stayed when any sensible person would have left long ago." Against his better judgment, Henry found himself following her into the cabin. The interior was transformed from what he remembered. The rough wooden floor had been scrubbed clean and handmade rugs covered much of it. Shelves lined the walls, filled with preserves and dried herbs. A proper bed stood in one corner, covered with a quilt that looked lovingly made. The place felt like a home, not just a shelter. Anna moved to the stove and began preparing coffee with practiced ease. Henry sat down at the small table, which was also something he had not left here. Someone had built it and built it well, from the looks of the careful joinery. "Start at the beginning," he said quietly. She poured water into the coffee pot and set it on the stove before turning to face him. 3 years ago, my father made a promise to your father. I was only 20 years old then, and I did not understand everything that was happening. My father, Thomas Calloway, was dying. He had consumption, and he knew he did not have long. Your father, Marcus Rutherford, came to visit him in Bozeman, where we were living. They were old friends from their trapping days, back before Montana was even a territory. Henry felt his throat tighten at the mention of his father. Marcus had died 2 years ago, and the grief was still fresh. "Go on." "Your father told mine about you," Anna continued, her hands clasped in front of her. "He said you were a good man, hardworking and honest, but that you spent too much time alone on your ranch. He said he worried about you being lonely, that you needed someone to share your life with. My father agreed, and they made an arrangement." "An arrangement?" Henry's voice was sharp. "What kind of arrangement?" Anna met his eyes steadily. "A marriage arrangement. Your father said that if I would wait for you, if I would prove myself capable of living this kind of life, then you would marry me when you returned from your cattle drive. He told me you would be gone for several months, and that I should come here and wait. He said this cabin was special to you, that it was your thinking place, where you came when you needed to be alone with the mountains. Henry stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. That is impossible. My father would never have done such a thing without telling me. And no woman would agree to marry a man she had never met. Would he not? Anna's voice was soft but insistent. Your father was dying, Henry. He knew it, even if you did not want to see it. He was desperate to make sure you would not be alone after he was gone. And as for me agreeing, what choice did I have? My father was dead. I had no other family and no means of supporting myself. Your father offered me a future and I took it. Henry ran his hands through his dark hair, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. But 3 years. You said you have been waiting 3 years. I was only gone for 7 months on that drive. Anna turned back to the stove, her shoulders tensing. I know. I heard what happened. The flood in the valley that destroyed half your herd. The year you spent in Wyoming trying to rebuild your stock. The illness that kept you laid up for months after that. News travels, even to someone living alone in the mountains. Then, why did you stay? Henry demanded. If you heard all of that, you must have known I was not coming back here anytime soon. Why did you not go back to Bozeman or move on with your life? She turned to face him again, and he saw tears shimmering in her eyes, though her voice remained steady. Because I made a promise. Because your father believed in this match enough to arrange it on his deathbed, and because I had nowhere else to go. But more than that, because as I lived here in this place you built, as I learned about you through the things you left behind, the books on your shelf, the careful way you built every joint and beam, I started to feel like I knew you. I started to believe that maybe your father was right, that maybe we could be good for each other. Henry sat down again heavily, his mind racing. He looked around the cabin with new eyes, seeing all the work she had done, the care she had taken. You have been here alone for 3 years. How did you survive? How did you get food, supplies? I am not helpless, Anna said with a flash of pride. I learned to hunt and fish. I have a garden plot behind the cabin where I grow vegetables. Once a month, I walk down to Bozeman to trade preserves and furs for the things I cannot make or grow myself. It is a hard life, but I have managed. That is a 3-day walk each way, Henry said, doing the calculations in his head. You have been doing that alone every month for 3 years. She nodded. I carry a rifle and know how to use it. I have never had serious trouble, though there have been a few close calls. A mountain lion followed me for half a day once, and last winter I got caught in a blizzard and had to hole up in a cave for 2 days. But I survived. Henry felt something shifting in his chest as he looked at this woman who had waited for him, a stranger, with such determination and faith. Anna, I do not know what to say. This is all so unexpected. I came up here today to check on the cabin and spend a few days hunting before winter sets in. I never imagined I would find someone living here, much less someone who claims to be waiting to marry me. I am not claiming anything, Anna said, her voice gaining strength. I am telling you the truth, and I am not asking you to marry me out of obligation. 3 years is a long time to think, and I have thought about this every single day. If you do not want me, if you cannot see us making a life together, then I will leave. But I am asking you to give this a chance, to stay here for a few days and get to know me before you make your decision. The coffee pot began to whistle, and Anna poured 2 cups, bringing one to Henry. He wrapped his hands around the warm tin, grateful for something to do with his hands. The coffee was good, strong and dark, made just the way he liked it. How did you know I take my coffee black? He asked. A small smile touched her lips. Your father told me. He told me a lot about you. He said you like to rise early and watch the sunrise. That you had a good hand with horses, but that cattle were your livelihood. That you played the harmonica, but only when you thought no one was listening. That you had a scar on your left shoulder from where a bull gored you when you were 16. Henry unconsciously touched his left shoulder. He told you all of that. He wanted me to know you, Anna said simply. He spent 2 whole days with me before I came up here, telling me stories, describing what kind of man you were. I think he wanted me to care about you before I ever met you. And do you? Henry asked, the question surprising him even as he spoke it. Care about me, I mean. Anna looked down at her coffee cup. I do not know you well enough to love you, if that is what you are asking. But I care about the man your father described. I care about the man who built this cabin with such attention to detail. I care about the man whose books show he has a thoughtful mind and a curious nature. So yes, I suppose I do care in a way. They sat in silence for a long moment, drinking their coffee and absorbing the strangeness of the situation. Finally, Henry spoke. I will stay for a few days, as you suggested. I want to hear more about my father's last days, and I want to understand why he felt this was so important. But I am not making any promises about marriage. That is a big step, and we are strangers. Relief washed over Anna's face. Thank you. That is all I ask. Henry spent the rest of that day helping Anna with chores around the cabin, and as he worked, he found himself observing her closely. She moved with efficiency and grace, her hands confident and capable. She had indeed built the table and chairs herself, she told him, using tools she had found in his small shed. She had also reinforced the roof, replaced several rotting boards on the porch, and dug a proper root cellar for winter storage. You did all of this alone? He asked as she showed him the extensive root cellar, filled with potatoes, carrots, turnips, and onions. I had a lot of time, she said with a slight shrug, and I wanted to make myself useful. I figured if you ever did come back, I wanted you to see that I could contribute, that I would not be a burden. That evening, Anna cooked dinner over the fire, a hearty stew made from dried venison and vegetables from her garden. As they ate, Henry asked her to tell him more about his father's visit. Anna set down her spoon and gathered her thoughts. He came to our house in Bozeman on a Tuesday morning. I remember because Tuesday was always baking day, and I had flour on my apron when I answered the door. He looked so much like you, the same dark hair and blue eyes, the same strong jaw. But he was thin, so thin, and his breathing was labored. I could see the illness in him immediately. How long did he stay? 3 days. He spent most of the first day talking with my father in private. I could hear their voices through the door, but I could not make out the words. My father was coughing so badly by then that he could hardly speak for more than a few minutes at a time. On the second day, your father called me into the room and explained his proposal. He was very direct about it. He said you needed a wife and I needed a home and a future. He said he had watched me with my father, seen how I cared for him without complaint, and he believed I would make you a good partner. What did you say? Henry asked. I did not know what to say, Anna admitted. I looked at my father and he nodded at me. He told me that Marcus Rutherford was the best man he had ever known, and that if Marcus said his son was worth waiting for, then he was. So I agreed. What else could I do? My father died 4 days later. Your father paid for the funeral and gave me money for supplies. He drew me a map to this cabin and told me to come here and make it a home. He said you would return within the year. But I did not, Henry said, guilt washing over him. No, you did not. But that was not your fault. Life does not always go according to plan. They talked late into the night, and Henry learned more about Anna's life. She had grown up in Ohio, the daughter of a merchant who had moved west seeking opportunity. Her mother had died when she was 12, leaving her to care for her father and run their household. She had learned to be resourceful and independent out of necessity. When her father's business failed and his health declined, they had moved to Montana Territory in hopes that the mountain air would help his lungs. It had not. "I am sorry you went through all of that," Henry said sincerely. "We all have our hardships," Anna replied. "What matters is what we do with them. I could have given up, could have married the first man who asked just to have security. But something about your father's offer felt right, even though it was unconventional. He spoke about you with such love and pride. He told me about your mother, how she had died when you were young, and how the two of you had built the ranch together from nothing. He said you deserved someone who would be a true partner, not just a decoration." Henry smiled slightly at that. "That sounds like something he would say." "He always spoke plainly." "He did, and he made me promise that I would wait, that I would give you a real chance when you came, so that is what I have done." When it came time for sleep, Anna insisted Henry take the bed while she would sleep on a pallet by the fire. Henry argued, but she was firm. "You are a guest in what is technically your own cabin," she said with a hint of humor. "Besides, I am used to sleeping by the fire when the nights get cold. The bed is comfortable. I made the mattress myself from cattail down." Henry had to admit the bed was indeed comfortable, better than his bunk back at the main ranch. As he lay in the darkness, listening to the crackling of the fire and the soft sounds of Anna settling in for the night, he found his mind racing. Everything had changed in the span of a single day. This morning, he had been a lonely rancher heading up to his old cabin for a few days of solitude. Now he was sharing that cabin with a woman who had been waiting 3 years to marry him, a woman his father had chosen for him without his knowledge or consent. He should have been angry, he thought. He should have felt manipulated, trapped. But instead he felt something else entirely. Curiosity, perhaps. Admiration for Anna's strength and determination. And something more, something he was not quite ready to name. The next morning, Henry woke to the smell of breakfast cooking. Anna was at the stove, frying eggs from her chicken coop, which she had built behind the cabin. She had chickens, she explained, and a goat for milk. She had traded for them in Bozeman, carrying the chickens up the mountain in a crate on her back and leading the goat on a rope. "That must have been quite a sight," Henry said, trying to imagine it. Anna laughed, and the sound was like music. "I am sure it was. The goat was not pleased about the walk, and she let me know it every step of the way, but she has been a good companion. I talk to her sometimes when the silence gets too heavy." After breakfast, Henry suggested they go hunting together. He wanted to see her shoot, to verify that she really could handle a rifle as well as she claimed. Anna agreed readily, and they set out into the forest with their weapons and a canteen of water. As they walked, Anna moved through the woods with the confidence of someone who knew the terrain intimately. She pointed out tracks and signs that Henry might have missed, showed him a salt lick where elk came to feed, and led him to a stream where trout jumped in the clear water. "You have learned this land well," he observed. "I have had 3 years to explore it," she said. "I know every trail within 5 miles of the cabin. I have to for safety. I need to know where I can find game, where the water sources are, and where to avoid because of bears or difficult terrain." They found a small herd of deer grazing in a meadow, and Anna raised her rifle smoothly, taking aim at a young doe. Her shot was clean and true, dropping the animal instantly. Henry was impressed. Many experienced hunters could not make such a shot, especially from that distance. "Your father taught you well," he said as they approached the fallen deer. "Actually, I taught myself," Anna replied. "My father never hunted. I had to learn through trial and error, and I wasted a lot of ammunition in the beginning. But I could not afford to waste food, so I got better quickly." They dressed the deer together, working in companionable silence. Henry found himself appreciating the way Anna did not shy away from the messy work, the way she knew exactly what to do. She was practical and skilled, qualities he valued highly. On the walk back to the cabin, dragging the deer on a travois Anna had cleverly constructed from branches, Henry found himself asking more personal questions. "Have you been lonely up here? 3 years is a long time to be alone." Anna considered the question carefully before answering. "Yes and no. There are moments when the loneliness feels crushing, when I would give anything just to have a conversation with another person. But there are also moments of perfect peace, when I feel completely connected to the world around me. I have learned to be comfortable with my own company, to find joy in small things. The first crocus in spring, the way the light hits the mountains at sunset, the satisfaction of finishing a difficult project." "You sound like a poet," Henry said. "I read a lot," Anna admitted. "Your books have been my constant companions. I hope you do not mind, but I have read every single one multiple times, the Shakespeare volume especially. The sonnets helped me through some dark nights." "I do not mind at all. Books are meant to be read. I am glad they brought you comfort." That evening, as they worked together to preserve the venison, Henry told Anna about his life. He described the ranch, which was located about 20 miles from Bozeman in a valley with good grazing land. He employed 3 ranch hands year-round and hired more during the busy seasons. He had built the place up from nothing with his father, and now that his father was gone, he ran it alone. "It sounds wonderful," Anna said wistfully. "I would love to see it someday." "You could come with me when I leave," Henry said, the words surprising him even as he spoke them. "Not to marry, not yet. But you could see the ranch, meet the men who work for me, see what life there would be like. This cabin is special to me, but it is not where I live most of the time. If we were to marry, you would be living at the main ranch." Anna's eyes widened. "Are you saying you are considering it? Considering marriage?" Henry paused, thinking carefully about his words. "I am saying that I am not ruling it out. 2 days ago, marriage was the furthest thing from my mind. Now I am spending time with a remarkable woman who has shown more courage and determination than most men I know. I would be a fool not to at least consider the possibility." "I appreciate your honesty," Anna said softly, "and I would like to see the ranch. I want to understand your whole life, not just this piece of it." They spent 2 more days at the cabin, and with each passing hour, Henry felt himself growing more comfortable with Anna's presence. She had a quiet strength that appealed to him, and a sense of humor that emerged once she relaxed a bit. She told him stories about her various mishaps over the past 3 years, like the time she accidentally set her skirt on fire while cooking, or the time she fell in the creek while fishing and had to walk back to the cabin soaking wet in October. "I thought I was going to freeze to death," she said, laughing at the memory. "I got back to the cabin and my fingers were so numb I could barely get the fire started. I had to sit in front of it wrapped in a blanket for hours before I stopped shivering." Henry found himself laughing along with her, enjoying the easy way they had fallen into conversation. It felt natural, as though they had known each other far longer than just a few days. On the 4th morning, Henry made his decision. "Come back to the ranch with me," he said over breakfast. "Stay for a while, maybe a month or 2. If at the end of that time we both feel this could work, then we will get married. If not, I will help you get established somewhere else, set you up with enough money to start fresh wherever you want to go." Anna's hands trembled slightly as she set down her coffee cup. "Do you mean that? You are really willing to give this a chance?" "I am," Henry said, and he realized he meant it completely. "My father must have seen something in you, something that made him believe we would be good together. And in these few days I have started to see it too. You are strong and capable and kind. You make me laugh. You do not shy away from hard work. Those are qualities I admire." "What if your ranch hands do not accept me?" Anna asked, a hint of worry in her voice. "What if they think I am some kind of gold digger who trapped you into this?" "Then they can find work elsewhere," Henry said firmly. "I am the boss and I choose who I spend my life with, but I do not think it will be a problem. They are good men and they will see in you what I see." Anna stood up and crossed to where Henry sat. She held out her hand and he took it, feeling the calluses earned from years of hard work. "Thank you," she said simply. "Thank you for being willing to try." They spent the next day preparing the cabin for winter and gathering Anna's possessions. She did not have much, just her clothes, some personal items, and the tools she had acquired over the years. Henry was surprised by how little she owned, considering she had been living here for 3 years. "I learned to live with less," she explained. "It is liberating in a way. You realize how little you actually need to be happy." The journey to the ranch took a full day of riding. Anna sat behind Henry on his mare, her arms wrapped around his waist for stability. She had a horse of her own, she explained, but it had gone lame last month and she had not yet replaced it. Henry made a mental note to find her a good horse as soon as possible. As they rode, Anna marveled at the landscape, pointing out features and asking questions about the land. Henry found himself enjoying playing the guide, showing her the valley where he ran his cattle, the creek where he drew water, the mountains that provided shelter from the harsh winter winds. "It is beautiful," Anna breathed as the ranch house came into view. "Even more beautiful than I imagined." The ranch house was a sturdy 2-story structure made from logs and stone, with a wide porch and a stone chimney. Smoke rose from the bunkhouse nearby, and Henry could see his ranch hands working in the corral with some young horses. As they dismounted, 3 men emerged from the barn. Henry recognized his foreman, Jacob, and the 2 younger hands, Pete and Samuel. They were all staring at Anna with undisguised curiosity. "Boys, this is Miss Anna Calloway," Henry said, his hand resting lightly on the small of her back in a gesture that felt surprisingly natural. "She will be staying with us for a while." Jacob, a weathered man in his 50s with sharp eyes, tipped his hat. "Madam, I will have Pete set up the guest room in the main house." "Thank you," Anna said, her voice steady despite what Henry suspected was nervousness. "I appreciate your hospitality." Over the next few weeks, Anna integrated herself into ranch life with the same determination she had shown in surviving alone in the mountains. She woke early to cook breakfast for everyone, insisting that it was the least she could do to earn her keep. She helped mend fences, worked in the kitchen garden, and even assisted with the horses when needed. The ranch hands, who had been skeptical at first, gradually warmed to her. "She is a hard worker," Jacob told Henry one evening as they watched Anna teaching Pete how to make a proper sourdough starter. "And she does not put on airs. I like her." "So do I," Henry admitted. As the days turned into weeks, Henry and Anna spent their evenings together on the porch, talking about everything and nothing. She told him about the books she had read, her dreams for the future, her fears and hopes. He shared stories about the ranch, about his father, about the life he had built here. "You ever feel trapped by it?" Anna asked one night as they watched the stars emerge. "By the responsibility of the ranch, the weight of keeping it going?" Henry considered the question. "Sometimes. But it is also what gives my life purpose. My father and I built this place with our own hands. It represents everything we dreamed of, everything we worked for. I could not abandon it." "I would never ask you to," Anna said softly. "I can see how much it means to you." One evening, about 6 weeks after Anna's arrival, Henry took her for a ride to a special spot on the property. It was a hilltop overlooking the entire valley, with views that stretched for miles in every direction. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. "This is where I come when I need to think," Henry said as they dismounted. "I wanted to share it with you." Anna stood at the edge of the hill, her hair whipping in the breeze, and Henry felt his breath catch at the sight of her silhouetted against the sunset. Over the past weeks, his feelings had grown from curiosity and respect to something much deeper. He cared for her, genuinely cared for her, and he could not imagine his life without her in it. "Anna," he said, stepping close to her, "I need to tell you something." She turned to face him, her green eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. "What is it? When you first told me about the arrangement my father made, I was angry and confused. I felt like my choice had been taken away from me. But now I understand what he saw, what he knew. He knew that you were exactly the kind of woman I needed, even if I did not know it myself. You are strong and brave and kind. You make me want to be a better man, and I have fallen in love with you." Tears sprang to Anna's eyes. "Henry, I have been in love with you for weeks now, maybe longer. I did not want to say anything because I did not want to pressure you. But hearing you say it, knowing you feel the same way, it is like every dream I have had for the past 3 years is finally coming true." Henry cupped her face in his hands and kissed her, gently at first and then with growing passion. Anna responded with equal fervor, her arms wrapping around his neck as she pressed against him. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. "Marry me," Henry said, his forehead resting against hers. "Not because of some arrangement or obligation, but because I love you and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." "Yes," Anna whispered. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." They were married 3 weeks later in a simple ceremony in Bozeman. Jacob and the ranch hands attended, along with a few neighbors and townspeople who had befriended Anna during her monthly trips to town. Anna wore a simple white dress that she had sewn herself, and Henry wore his best suit. As they exchanged vows, Henry could not help but think of his father, wishing he could be there to see that his faith had been justified. The wedding night was tender and passionate, both of them nervous but eager to finally belong to each other completely. Anna had prepared their bedroom with care, filling it with wildflowers and lighting candles. As Henry carried her across the threshold, he felt a sense of rightness, of coming home to a place he had not even known he was missing. "I love you, Mrs. Rutherford," he whispered against her hair as they lay together afterwards. "I love you too," she replied, her fingers tracing patterns on his chest. "And I promise I will spend every day trying to be worthy of the faith you have placed in me." "You already are," Henry assured her. "You already are." The first year of their marriage was not without challenges. Anna had to learn the full scope of running a ranch household, managing accounts, and supervising the cooking for not just the two of them but for the ranch hands as well. There were moments of frustration, times when she felt overwhelmed by the responsibility. But Henry was patient and supportive, and they worked through each problem together. In the spring, Anna discovered she was pregnant. She was thrilled but also terrified, having no mother or female relatives to guide her through the experience. A neighbor woman, Mrs. Henderson, took Anna under her wing, teaching her what to expect and how to prepare for the baby's arrival. Henry was over the moon at the prospect of becoming a father. He built a beautiful cradle from oak wood, spending his evenings carefully sanding and finishing it until it was smooth as silk. Anna sewed tiny clothes and blankets, her hands working constantly even as her belly grew. "What if I am not a good mother?" she confessed to Henry one night as they lay in bed, his hand resting on her swollen stomach. "You will be an amazing mother," Henry said with conviction. "Look at everything you have already overcome. You survived 3 years alone in the wilderness." You adapted to life on this ranch. You handle every challenge that comes your way with grace and determination. Our child will be lucky to have you." Their son was born on a cold January morning in 1884, with Mrs. Henderson attending as midwife. The labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when Henry feared he would lose Anna. But she fought through, her strength carrying her through the pain, and when he finally heard his son's first cry, Henry wept with relief and joy. They named him Marcus, after Henry's father, and he was a healthy, robust baby with his mother's green eyes and his father's dark hair. Anna took to motherhood with the same determination she brought to everything else, though Henry could see she was exhausted by the constant demands of caring for an infant. "Let me help more," he insisted, taking the baby from her arms one night when she was swaying with exhaustion. "You do not have to do this all alone." "But the ranch," Anna protested weakly. "The ranch will survive if I spend more time with my family," Henry said firmly. "Jacob can handle the day-to-day operations. You and Marcus are my priority." True to his word, Henry adjusted his schedule to be more present in the house. He learned to change diapers and soothe the baby when he cried in the night. He took over many of the household chores so Anna could rest when the baby slept. And slowly, they found their rhythm as a family. As Marcus grew from infant to toddler, Anna bloomed into her role as wife and mother. She still helped with ranch duties when she could, but she had learned to delegate and to ask for help when she needed it. The ranch hands adored little Marcus, taking turns entertaining him and teaching him about horses and cattle as he got older. 2 years after Marcus was born, Anna gave birth to twin girls, Helen and Rose. The pregnancy had been difficult, and the birth even more so. For several terrifying hours, the doctor who had come from Bozeman feared they would lose Anna. But once again, her strength pulled her through, though it took months for her to fully recover. "No more babies," Henry declared as he watched Anna struggle to nurse 2 hungry infants while keeping a toddler entertained. "I cannot go through that again. I cannot risk losing you." "We will see," Anna said with a tired smile. "I have always wanted a large family. But perhaps we should wait a while before thinking about more children." The twins were a handful, but they brought even more joy to the household. Marcus was a devoted big brother, always wanting to help care for his little sisters. The ranch thrived under Henry's continued management, and they were able to expand their operations, buying more land and increasing their herd. As the years passed, Anna often thought back to those 3 years she had spent alone in the cabin, waiting for a man she had never met. It seemed like a different lifetime now, though she still treasured the independence and self-reliance she had developed during that time. She and Henry made an annual trip to the cabin, just the 2 of them, leaving the children with Mrs. Henderson. They would spend a few days there, reconnecting with each other and the place where their story had begun. "You ever regret it?" Henry asked her during one of these trips as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Agreeing to wait for me, giving up 3 years of your life for a promise that must have seemed impossible." Anna reached for his hand, lacing her fingers through his. "Not for a single moment. Those 3 years taught me who I was, what I was capable of. And they led me to you, to this life we have built together. How could I regret that?" "I wish I could thank my father," Henry said, his voice thick with emotion, "for having the wisdom to see what I could not, for bringing you into my life." "I think he knows," Anna said softly. "Wherever he is, I think he knows, and he is proud of us." Life was not always easy. There were droughts that threatened their water supply, harsh winters that killed cattle, and the constant challenge of making ends meet. There were arguments and disagreements, moments when they hurt each other without meaning to. But through it all, their love remained constant, a foundation they could always return to. When Marcus was 8 years old and the twins were 6, Anna discovered she was pregnant again. This time, the pregnancy was easier, perhaps because she was more experienced or perhaps because it was just meant to be. She gave birth to another son, whom they named Thomas after her father. Henry held his new son and looked at Anna with such love and gratitude that she felt her heart might burst. "You have given me everything," he said. "A family, a home, a purpose beyond just the ranch. You are the best thing that ever happened to me." "We were meant for each other," Anna replied, touching his face tenderly. "Your father saw it and he was right. We are 2 parts of the same whole, stronger together than we ever could have been apart." As the children grew older, Anna told them the story of how she and their father had met, how she had waited in the mountain cabin for 3 years, and how love had blossomed from an arrangement between 2 dying fathers. The children loved the story, especially the part about their mother surviving alone in the wilderness. "You are so brave, Mama," little Rose said one night as Anna tucked her into bed. "I want to be brave like you when I grow up." "You already are, sweetheart," Anna assured her. Bravery is not about being fearless. It is about facing your fears and doing what needs to be done anyway. And you do that every day. Marcus, as he grew older, showed a keen interest in ranching and spent most of his time following his father around, learning everything he could. Helen was more artistic, always drawing or painting the beautiful landscape around them. Rose was adventurous, constantly exploring and getting into mischief. And little Thomas was still too young to show his true personality, but he was a happy, affectionate child who brought joy to everyone around him. The ranch continued to prosper, and Henry and Anna became respected members of the community. They helped their neighbors when times were hard, attended church every Sunday, and made sure their children understood the value of hard work and compassion. Anna started a school on the ranch for Marcus and the twins, hiring a teacher from Bozeman to come and instruct not just their children, but also the children of their ranch hands and neighboring families. Education is important, Anna insisted when Henry questioned the expense. "Our children need to know there is a whole world beyond this valley, even if they choose to stay here. And the other children deserve the same opportunities." Henry, who had seen firsthand how Anna's intelligence and education had helped her survive those 3 years alone, readily agreed. The little schoolhouse became a cornerstone of their community, and Anna took pride in knowing they were helping to shape the next generation. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Henry surprised Anna with a trip back to the cabin. But this time, they brought the children with them. He wanted them to see where their parents' story had begun, to understand the cabin that held such significance for their family. As they approached the cabin, which Henry and Anna had maintained over the years, Anna felt tears pricking her eyes. So much had changed since that day when Henry had ridden up and found her waiting. She had been so young then, so uncertain of her future. Now she was a confident woman, a mother, a rancher's wife, surrounded by love and family. "This is where Mama lived while she waited for Papa?" Marcus asked, looking at the small cabin with wide eyes. "For 3 whole years," Henry confirmed, his arm around Anna's shoulders. "She made this place a home all by herself." The children explored the cabin with fascination, and Anna showed them the improvements she had made, the garden plot she had tended, the root cellar she had dug. Henry pointed out the original things he had built, the careful joinery and construction that had impressed Anna so much. That night, as they all squeezed into the cabin together, sleeping on bedrolls and pallets, Anna felt a deep sense of contentment. Her life had not turned out the way she had imagined when she was a young girl in Ohio. It had been harder, more challenging, filled with more pain and fear than she could have anticipated. But it had also been richer, more rewarding, more full of love than she had ever dared to dream. "I would do it all again," she whispered to Henry as they lay close together, their children sleeping peacefully around them. "Every lonely night, every moment of fear and doubt, I would do it all again for this." "So would I," Henry replied, kissing her forehead. "Even the parts that did not include you, because they led me here, to this moment, to this life we have built together." As the years continued to pass, Henry and Anna watched their children grow and flourish. Marcus eventually took over more and more of the ranch operations, showing a natural talent for the work. At 19, he married a local girl named Sarah, and they built a house on the ranch property. Helen pursued her art, eventually moving to San Francisco to study at an academy, though she returned home often. Rose married a doctor in Bozeman and stayed close to home, giving Anna and Henry their first grandchildren. Thomas showed an interest in law and went east to study, though he promised to return to Montana when he finished his education. Anna and Henry grew older together, their love deepening with each passing year. Henry's hair turned gray, and Anna's face showed the lines earned from years of laughter and living. But to each other, they were still the young people who had fallen in love on a Montana ranch, who had taken a leap of faith based on an arrangement between two fathers, and had found something real and lasting. On a warm summer evening in 1907, when they had been married for 24 years, Anna and Henry sat on the porch of their ranch house, watching the sun set over the valley. They were grandparents now, with 4 grandchildren and another on the way. The ranch was thriving under Marcus's management, with Henry taking a more advisory role these days. "You remember the first time we sat on this porch together?" Anna asked, holding Henry's weathered hand. "You had just asked me to stay and give us a chance." "I remember," Henry said, bringing her hand to his lips and kissing it. "I was terrified I was making a mistake, but also certain it was the right decision. That feeling has never changed." "I was terrified too," Anna admitted. "I had been alone for so long, and suddenly I was surrounded by people, trying to fit into a life I had only imagined. But you made it easy. You were so patient, so kind. You let me find my place instead of forcing me into a mold." "You found more than your place," Henry said. "You created it. You made this ranch a home, not just for me, but for everyone who lives and works here. You built a community. That was all you." Anna leaned her head on Henry's shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of him, leather and hay and the soap he used. "Your father would be proud of us, I think. Of what we built together." "He would be proud of you," Henry corrected, "for having the courage to wait, to take a chance on a man you had never met, for surviving those 3 years alone, for everything you have become." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to emerge, one by one, in the darkening sky. Behind them, they could hear the sounds of family, Marcus and Sarah putting their children to bed, Rose and her husband laughing over something in the kitchen. These were the sounds of a life well lived, of love that had multiplied and grown beyond anything they could have imagined. "If I could go back," Anna said suddenly, "back to that day when your father came to my house in Bozeman, knowing everything I know now, I would not change a single thing. Not the loneliness, not the hardship, not the fear, because all of it led to this, to you, to our family, to this beautiful life we have built." "Neither would I," Henry agreed. "Every choice, every moment brought us here, and there is nowhere else I would rather be." As they sat together under the Montana stars, Anna thought about the young woman she had been, waiting alone in that cabin with nothing but faith and hope to sustain her. She thought about the courage it had taken to stay, to believe that a stranger would come, and that they would find love together. and she thought about how that faith had been rewarded beyond her wildest dreams. The story of how they met became family legend, passed down to their grandchildren, and eventually their great-grandchildren. The cabin in the mountains was preserved and maintained, a testament to Anna's strength and determination. And the ranch continued to thrive, generation after generation, built on the foundation of a love that had begun with an arrangement between two dying fathers and had grown into something beautiful and enduring. In the end, Anna and Henry's love story was not about the romantic way they met or the dramatic circumstances that brought them together. It was about the choice they made every day to love each other, to work together, to build a life and a family based on mutual respect and genuine affection. It was about patience and faith, courage and determination. It was about two people who could have been strangers but instead became everything to each other. And on that warm summer evening, sitting together on the porch of the ranch they had built together, surrounded by the evidence of their love in the form of children and grandchildren and a thriving community, Henry and Anna knew that they had been given a great gift. Not the gift of an easy life or a perfect romance, but the gift of each other and the chance to create something lasting and meaningful together. "I love you, Anna Rutherford," Henry said, just as he had said countless times over the years. "I love you too, Henry Rutherford," Anna replied, just as she always did. Today and always. The sun set completely, painting the sky in brilliant shades of purple and gold, and they remained there together, hand in hand, as they had been for nearly 25 years. Two people who had started as strangers, brought together by an arrangement they had not chosen, who had found in each other something more precious than gold or land or anything else the world could offer. They had found home, not in a place but in each other, and that was the greatest treasure of all. As the years turned into decades, Henry and Anna continued their life together on the ranch. They celebrated their 30th anniversary, surrounded by a family that had grown even larger, with Marcus and Sarah now having 5 children of their own. Helen had married a fellow artist and divided her time between San Francisco and the ranch, bringing her sophisticated perspective and her paintings that captured the beauty of Montana in ways that took Anna's breath away. Rose and her doctor husband had 4 children and were pillars of the Bozeman community. And Thomas had indeed returned from his law studies, setting up a practice in Bozeman and advocating for ranchers' rights and fair treatment. Henry was in his 60s now, his body showing the wear of decades of hard physical labor. His joints ached in the morning, and he moved more slowly than he once had. But his mind was still sharp, and his love for Anna had not dimmed one bit. If anything, it had grown stronger, tempered by time and experience into something unbreakable. Anna, too, showed her age. Her auburn hair had threads of silver running through it, and her hands were gnarled from years of work. But she still rose early every morning, still managed the household with the same efficiency she always had. And every time Henry looked at her, he saw not the lines on her face but the young woman who had waited for him in a mountain cabin, who had believed in a promise when any rational person would have given up. They made one last trip to the cabin together when Henry was 65. It was harder for him to make the journey now, and Anna worried about him, but he insisted. "I want to see it one more time," he said, "the place where our life together really began." They rode slowly, taking breaks often, and when they finally reached the cabin, both of them felt a wave of nostalgia so strong it was almost painful. The cabin was exactly as they had left it on their last visit, well maintained and waiting. "Remember when I found you here?" Henry asked as they stood together in the doorway. "You had that rifle and told me to state my business or move along." Anna laughed, the sound still as musical to Henry as it had been all those years ago. I was so scared. I had waited for so long, and then suddenly you were there, real and solid and nothing like I had imagined, but also exactly right. What did you imagine? Henry asked, curious. I do not know, Anna said honestly. I think I was afraid to imagine anything too specific, in case reality disappointed me. But you never disappointed me, Henry, not once in all these years. They spent 3 days at the cabin, just the two of them, talking and remembering and holding each other close. On the last evening, as they prepared to leave the next morning, Henry took Anna's hand and led her outside to watch the sunset. I need to tell you something, he said, and Anna heard something in his voice that made her heart clench with fear. What is it? I am not going to live forever, Henry said bluntly. I can feel my body wearing out. The doctor says my heart is not as strong as it used to be, and I need you to know that every single day I have had with you has been a gift. You made me happier than I ever thought possible. You gave me a family, a real home, a reason to wake up every morning excited about life. And I need you to promise me that when I am gone, you will not spend your days grieving. You will live, really live, and enjoy our children and grandchildren and all the beauty in the world. Tears streamed down Anna's face. Do not talk like that. We have years yet. Maybe we do, and maybe we do not, Henry said gently. But either way, I needed to say it. You spent 3 years of your life waiting for me before we even met. I do not want you to spend whatever years you have after I am gone just waiting for death. Promise me, Anna. I promise, Anna whispered, though the words felt like broken glass in her throat. But only if you promise me the same, that if I go first, you will keep living, keep finding joy. I promise, Henry said, pulling her close, though I cannot imagine this world without you in it. They returned to the ranch the next day, and life continued its steady rhythm. Henry's prediction proved accurate sooner than either of them would have liked. 2 years later, on a crisp autumn morning, Henry suffered a heart attack while out checking the fence line with Marcus. He died before the doctor could reach the ranch, held in his son's arms, his last words a request for Marcus to tell Anna that he loved her. Anna's grief was profound and all-consuming. For weeks, she moved through the house like a ghost, performing her duties mechanically but feeling nothing. The family worried about her, especially Marcus, who remembered his father's concern about his mother's well-being after he was gone. It was Rose who finally broke through Anna's grief. She came to the ranch with her 4 children and sat with her mother in the room Anna and Henry had shared for over 3 decades. "Mama, I know you are hurting," Rose said, taking Anna's hands, "but Papa would not want this. He would want you to live, to be present for us and for your grandchildren. You spent 3 years waiting for him once. Do not spend the rest of your life waiting for death to reunite you. Live for him, if you cannot live for yourself." Anna looked at her daughter, saw Henry's blue eyes looking back at her from Rose's face, and something broke open inside her. She wept then, truly wept, for the first time since Henry's death. And when the tears finally stopped, she felt lighter, as though some of the crushing weight had lifted. "You are right," she said finally. "Your father made me promise to live, and I will. It will not be easy, but I will do it. For him and for all of you." And she did. Anna threw herself back into life, spending time with her grandchildren, helping Marcus and Sarah run the ranch, attending church and community events. The pain of losing Henry never fully went away, but it became bearable, something she carried with her rather than something that crushed her. She told stories about Henry to her grandchildren, keeping his memory alive in their minds. She made annual trips to the cabin, bringing different family members each time, ensuring that they all understood the significance of the place. And she found moments of joy, watching her family grow and thrive, knowing that she and Henry had built something that would endure long after they were both gone. Anna lived for 15 more years after Henry's death, long enough to see great-grandchildren born and to watch the ranch continue to prosper. She watched the world change around her, saw automobiles replace horses, watched as Montana evolved from a wild frontier into a more settled state. But through all the changes, the essence of what she and Henry had built remained constant. On a sunny spring morning in 1924, Anna passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by her children. She was 72 years old, and she had lived a full, rich life. At her funeral, the church in Bozeman was packed with people whose lives she had touched. Marcus gave the eulogy, speaking about his mother's courage, her strength, her unwavering love for her family. "My mother was an extraordinary woman," he said, his voice thick with emotion. She spent 3 years alone in a mountain cabin, waiting for a man she had never met, because she had made a promise. And that determination, that commitment to seeing things through no matter how hard they got, defined her whole life. She loved my father with everything she had, and when he died, she could have given up. But she did not. She kept living, kept loving, kept being present for all of us. That is her legacy, not just the family she raised or the ranch she helped build, but the example she set of how to live with courage and grace. Anna was buried next to Henry in the small cemetery outside Bozeman, under a stone that bore both their names and the words "Together Forever." And in the years that followed, their descendants would often visit that grave, bringing flowers and telling stories, keeping alive the love story that had started with an arrangement between two dying fathers and had grown into something beautiful and enduring. The ranch continued to thrive under the stewardship of Marcus and his children after him. The cabin in the mountains was preserved as a family shrine, a place where each generation went to connect with their history and to remember the courage of a young woman who had waited 3 years for love. And on quiet evenings, when the sun set over the Montana mountains in shades of purple and gold, those who lived on the ranch would sometimes swear they could feel the presence of Henry and Anna, together still, watching over the land they had loved and the family they had created. Their love story became legend, passed down through generations, a testament to the power of faith and courage and the choice to love, even when the circumstances seemed impossible. In the end, what had started as an arrangement between two dying fathers became one of the great love stories of the Montana frontier. Not because it was easy or perfect, but because two people had chosen to believe in the possibility of love, had worked every day to build something real and lasting, and had created a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. Henry and Anna Rutherford had found each other against all odds, had built a life together from nothing but hope and determination, and had loved each other with a depth and devotion that inspired everyone who knew them. And that love, born in a small cabin in the Montana mountains, continued to ripple out through time, touching lives and changing futures, a reminder that sometimes the greatest love stories begin with an act of faith and the courage to wait for something you have never seen but somehow know, deep in your heart, will be worth every moment of waiting.